Hey everybody, Zach here from Mythos Pedals, and today we're doing something that you guys have requested for a long time. We're going to talk about the plastics for Gibson Les Paul guitars. Since I started doing AMAs, you guys have been asking about this for a long time, and I thought, why not dive into it? I've got a bunch of plastic here. I brought some guitars. We're going to upgrade Chippy and show kind of how you can transform a guitar with new plastics, but I wanted to share this process with you guys and talk about it. But let it be known that there is no perfect plastic color. The plastics were different depending on how much sunlight a guitar saw, the dye lots that went into manufacturing them back in the day. So if you're trying to be vintage accurate, you may be chasing something that you'll never catch. So just do something that looks good on your guitar and then enjoy it, play it, and make it your own. By the way, on mythospedals.com, we're going to be adding a category with a bunch of these plastic upgrades that you can get directly from us. They're going to be stuff that I've sourced, that I like, that I've approved, and you can get them all in one place. So check out the link in the description, and while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe. So let's get it started. All right, so first things first, where do you get these sort of plastics? Now, if you're not buying them from mythospedals.com, you can get them from a variety of online sites, or you might be able to get some of this stuff down at the local guitar shop. But if you're buying it online, some of the places I like to use are Philadelphia Luthier Tools. Mojo Axe makes incredible replica pickguards. There is Area 59 or Crazy Parts. They have a lot of great stuff. Wiz makes some really good pickup rings, so does Throwback, Historic Makeovers. So we'll put a list of these places down in the description. So that's something you can check out and find what works within your budget and for your guitar. Now, when choosing parts, one of the most important things you need to be aware of is the measurements. The most important piece is the pickguard. Now, on a Les Paul, the spacing between the pickup rings and the hole placement can vary pretty wildly depending if it's standard, if it's custom shop, what year of a custom shop. So if you're ordering a pickguard, you want to make sure that these things are true with your instrument. So double check all that stuff, make sure a manufacturer has all that information listed. You don't want to buy something, get it home, and it doesn't fit on your guitar. Pretty much everything else is fairly universal, so it's not as big a deal. But when it comes to pickguards specifically, you want to make sure you're getting something that fits. But let's dive into all the different plastics and talk about what I think looks best for those specific pieces. So let's talk about pickup rings. So there are no shortage of options for pickup rings when it comes to upgrading the plastics on really any guitar. Humbucker rings are kind of universal. For any USA made instrument, the spacing is pretty standard, but there are a variety of options that I like, that I think look best on reissue style instruments, or if you're trying to give your guitar a retro look or feel. So we talked about some of the companies that manufacture some of the plastic, but one of the things you kind of have to be aware of is the differences in color. So, like I said at the beginning, there is no specific color for any Les Paul. There is no right or wrong answer for the plastics when it comes to making something vintage accurate. For my R9, I went with Wiz pickup rings. Now, Wiz rings are pretty bone white, kind of a milky white, and on this guitar, I think they work really well. We've got some different rings here. We've got some rings from Philadelphia Luthier Tools and some of the rings that we're going to be selling on our website. These are replica M69 rings, and if you're looking at getting replica pickup rings for a guitar, the M69 is kind of the standard for a Gibson style ring. It's the right height, it's the right angle, it's the right shape, and there's a variety of colors. So, concerning colors, there's a lot to talk about. Most Gibson custom shop rings these days are going to be this kind of cream color. On my R9, you can see the Wiz rings and the cream are pretty close, but there's also a bone white, a more ivory white ring that I think looks pretty cool, but it may not work for every finish. You kind of have to find the balance that works with your guitar. And this is going to be true about all the plastics that you put on your instrument. But one of the things you need to be aware of when you're looking at upgrade rings, not only just the color, but the type of material the ring is made of. Now, some rings are made out of ABS plastic. That's what's on like a standard line Gibson guitar. But on vintage instruments and on custom shop, you're looking for butyrate. They flex, they bend. When you get them new, they smell like spoiled milk. They smell gross, but that's how they were when they came from the factory. The same material is what they used to make the pickup bobbins. But if you're wanting to do vintage accurate rings, butyrate M69 is the way to go. Now, we'll also show some B-roll of these rings next to a Gibson Les Paul Standard. Now, Gibson Les Paul Standard, the ring color is a bit more flesh or peach or pink color, and one of the reasons why so many people want to upgrade that is because it just kind of looks a little funny. It doesn't have an old school look. It's got a very specific look. That is fine. They hold the pickups fine. None of this is going to improve the sound, but if you're wanting to go for the correct aesthetic, then these sort of butyrate rings are the way to go. It's a lot of information, but that's what this video is for. So that's pickup rings. Let's move on to the next thing. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is the pickguard. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that one of the most important things you need to be aware of is the measurements for the pickguard, but finding the right color for your Les Paul is kind of hard. Now, there are a lot of different options. Now, these two I got from Philadelphia Luthier Tools. This is going to be one of the kinds that we sell, which is more like what is on, high-end custom shop instruments, but there's a lot of different colors of pickguard here. And one of the things you need to be aware of is that on vintage instruments, like I said at the beginning, the pickguards hardly ever matched the rest of the plastics. All the plastics could vary on one guitar. One vintage guitar, even though everything looks like it's cream or white, they could be different shades of all those things because they're made from different materials. Usually the pickguard and something like the poker chip, the selector ring here, those would be made from similar material, but the pickguard and the pickup rings were made from different stuff. So the dialots would be different, the colors would be different. They're always kind of close, but it's just something to keep in mind. Now, the colors on these pickguards can really affect the look of the guitar. Now, this one and these are about the same. We have this lighter color, which on this guitar changes it pretty drastically, especially if you start mixing and matching the plastics here. It really changes the look of the instrument. And then this old school replica guard is a little more cream, a little more yellow in it. It's a different hue, but you can see how different all these colors are. Chances are you're going to have to buy a couple pickguards for your guitar to find something that really suits you. For my R9, I think I went through about 4 guards before I found the right one. I would flip them on Reverb or eBay way back when and sell them and move on to the next one, but it may be a bit of a journey, so just buckle up and prepare yourself for that. Okay, the next thing is the poker chip or the selector ring plate. People call it lots of stuff. We call it a poker chip because it's about the size of a poker chip, and on all the forums and stuff, it's called the poker chip. So the poker chip is kind of important if you're really wanting to get down to the nitty-gritty, because of all the things that is on the guitar, the font on this can vary wildly, and if you want to be really accurate, the font has to be right. So we've got a variety of them here. You can kind of see how the R, the B, the font on these is pretty consistent. So on poker chips, the font is pressed into the plastic and then it's filled with gold. Eventually all that'll wear off if you play it enough. Guitars like Pearly Gates, it just looks like a cream blank ring where all the gold has left off. But this is a variety of different options with different fonts. They're all a little different, the color's a little different, but you can see the differences in color. If you look at the poker chip on Chippy, you can see that the font is wildly different from the aftermarket rings. So, you know, if you're a nut like me, these are the details that truly matter, but ultimately it's just about getting the vibe and the personality where you want it. And like I said about the pickup rings, the poker chip on a Gibson standard guitar can be pretty fleshy and look a little off when you compare it to its vintage counterpart, and it's a really easy fix. There's just a couple tools you'll need, and you can put a new one on like that. Let's move on to the next thing. All right, next up is knobs. Now, the knobs, just like everything else when you're crazy like me, is really important, but they're really specific. And if you want to do a replica style knob, it's getting a little bit easier these days to find the right knob. We're gonna have some on the website, but I just wanna talk about what makes them right or wrong. So, the shape of a bell knob, which is usually found on a 57, 58, early 60 Les Paul, is this, like what's on my R9. Now, some of the specific things to look for on any Gibson knob, in my opinion, is the raised numbers. Now, on a replica knob, you should be able to see the numbers are embossed. Some cheaper knobs, the knob numbers are just printed on the inside and then they're painted gold. Old school knobs never looked like that. They had raised numbers that were painted and then it was backfilled with gold to have the right appearance. And the shape is really specific. The top of the knob has a bit of a dish that you can feel. It's not completely flat. And when you're putting on a replica style knob, if you look through it through the side, you want to see a bit of a discoloration. Those knobs were very rarely pure, clear plastic, and having them slightly yellowed makes a big difference and kind of goes a long way in giving the guitar a more old school feel. And you can really kind of see it on these black knobs, how the numbers are yellowed because this plastic is yellowed a bit. Now, if you're looking at reflector knobs, like what we're going to put on Chippy, reflector knobs they still have the raised numbers. This set is from Philadelphia Luthier Tools. The gold is often different. The font on vintage style ones is very small. These are okay. It's not perfect, but these look better than what's on the current standard model guitar, and it's just something to look out for. One thing you need to look out for on Les Pauls is that the insert is silver and not gold. As far as I'm aware of, no Les Pauls ever had a little gold reflector cap on there. They were most always silver. But this would be right for like a 1960s style guitar, mid to late 60 on a Les Paul would have had this, and then a lot of guitars after that would have had this. But those are knobs, things to look out for. Let's move on to the next thing. All right, so the next small detail is going to be the switch tip. We're going to have to do a lot of B-roll on this one so you can see all the detail. But the switch tip, if you're doing a replica, should be made out of material called Catalin. Now, Catalin is a sort of polymer resin that can be polished. It's really smooth, and it has a specific color and sheen. Now, one of the things that the standard line has is just the normal orange Switchcraft switch tip. And you can kind of see on these, they have a mold line. You can catch your finger on it. That is present. Now you could, if you wanted to, sand and polish that off. I've tried to do that. It's a nightmare. All you really need to do is zip this off and put on a Catalin tip. It's a very minor thing. It doesn't change too much about the guitar, but that smooth finish and the color is something that one would expect on most vintage Les Pauls. Now, the tip on a vintage Les Paul didn't start out orange. Catalin was usually white, and then the sun would change the color of it and turn it orange. So sometimes you see vintage guitars with a white switch tip, but most people, if you're upgrading your Les Paul or 335 or even an SG sometimes, are going to go with an orange colored switch tip, and Catalin is the way to go. Okay, so truss rod covers. These are a specific thing when it comes to upgrading any Gibson guitar. If you want to get an old school look, it's a pretty easy, painless swap. On custom shop instruments, they come with a truss rod cover like this. It has a really wide white bezel, and there's a bit of a lip on the side. This guitar has a rolled cover that I put on there. You can actually kind of catch in the light some of the roll lines from when it was made. Some vintage guitars had this, some didn't. we have these replica covers, and they look really nice, but they don't have the roll lines. But, you know, it's kind of hard to catch anyway. But it's a specific thing that can really take any standard Gibson instrument and elevate it to look a bit more old school. Okay, lastly, we're going to cover some miscellaneous plastics. So we have output jack plates. This is a replica. It's the right thickness. It's got square edges that looks right on a replica vintage style instrument. On our website, we're going to have some of these. This is something Tom Murphy told me about. It's a metal, let's see.
Nice.
It's a metal output jack plate, but it's painted cream, so it gives you the old school look. But if you step on your cable or something, you're not going to rip it out of the guitar and mess anything up. And lastly, we didn't talk about speed knobs. Speed knobs are something that on earlier 50s style instruments, there's a lot to consider. The height, the color. These I got from, I think, Area 59 or Crazy Parts. So it's an entire rabbit hole in and of itself, speed knobs. But if you have a gold top style guitar and you want to have that sort of knob, you can find replica knobs that look right with the raised numbers and then have a bit of a yellowed tint to them so they don't look so brand new and modern. But I think that just about covers it. We're going to upgrade Chippy. We're going to rip off all the plastic and put on some of these replica plastics and try to elevate the look of Chippy to be a little more old school and just kind of fit within the aesthetic that I want from a Gibson Les Paul, and something that you guys have been asking for. So let's get started. Okay, so I've got my screwdriver. We're going to take off the truss rod cover, just go from the headstock down to the knobs and start changing out all the plastic on this guitar. So let's get going. I think that the Gibson standard line now comes with a blank cover. If you don't want the standard, you can just put a blank one on there. But let's see. Oh, it fits.
Oh, man.
There we go. Truss rod cover. Next, we're going to take off the poker chip. Now, one of the things you want to do when you're changing the poker chip, a handy tip is to take off the back plate for the switch. So when you are removing it, get your handy dandy spanner, but you can hold the switch so you don't twist it and mess up the wires, and you can remove the switch nut thusly. And one of the things, we didn't decide what color we're going to make all this plastic be, but I think that we should just stick with matching the pickguard that's already on this thing. Or do we go white? What do you think, Matthew?
I think we go white.
Okay.
I think it looks good with that that shade of red.
It'll pop.
What color is this?
This is sparkling burgundy. This is one of the
red.
Yeah, one of the custom colors.
It's nice.
It's a really nice guitar. Let's see. Threading this nut back on is always... There she goes. So, you get that thing finger tight. Kind of have to use both hands. Hold that thing. Get your spanner. Hold the switch so it doesn't twist. You kind of check it to make sure that it's not going every which way. There we go. That's that. Now we'll change the switch tip. Just give that a twist. Put on the Catalan one. Get rid of that mold line. Easy. Okay. Next. Well, you know what? Next we'll take off the pickguard because it's easier to get the rings out. So on the pickguard, take off this top screw. Take off the side screw. lift that up. Nice and pretty. It's kind of cool without the pickguard.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh is right. Then you will loosen the screw for the bracket. It has a bunch of little bits and bobs. We're going to put the white color pickguard on this. I think it's going to look cool.
Yeah, I like it. I think it goes well with that sparkling burgundy.
Yes. Rip the plastic. Oh.
Come on, bro.
Damn it.
Come on.
What the f? What if, after all this, it was a completely different color underneath that plastic?
Whoa. Plastic.
That was a nightmare. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna clean this and then we'll get it on the guitar. Okay, so that was a journey. Cleaned it up with some naphtha. Don't drink that. And yeah, we're gonna get the bracket back on it, get the pickguard kind of situated back on the guitar, and move on to the rings. There's Jeff. Jeff. All right, now that we've got the guard on, that took forever. We're gonna get these pickups out, we'll swap the rings, do the knobs, and then Chippy is gonna be nice and upgraded.
Really see the difference in colors now.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Lay down a little protection here. It's always important. Swap out my screwdriver tip. All right, so I know a lot of people seem to struggle with changing pickup rings. I don't know, I've never really had much of a problem with it.
Okay. Mr. Man.
But just try to do one side. You don't have to thread it on much, just get it on there and it should work just fine. Whoop! Found it! Keep that there.
The spring sprung.
Now that we've got the rings off, we're gonna put some of these white rings on. Now you need to be aware of the direction of the pull pieces. You know, usually the neck pull pieces are going towards the fretboard and the low side is on that side. So we'll thread in mounting screw. Put on the spring, kind of line it up, and then usually I'll just push this, like squeeze the spring up with my hand and use my thumb to place the screw, like that. Kind of hold it in place, set your screwdriver, start turning, and you feel it bite. There you go. That's on there, and then we do the same thing on the other side. Sometimes it can be a little tricky to get both sides, but there's enough play that you can kind of push the pickup around as you need to get it threaded on. There you go. So now that pickup is in a new white ring. Set that into the guitar. Might have to loosen the guard to get everything to line up. Nope, there it goes. Do the same thing with this one. You can always use the back of the pickup as a place to hold your mounting screws so they don't go flying or they don't roll off. That happens. You will lose these. If you're ordering parts, it's a good idea just to have extra pickup mounting springs and screws and stuff, because inevitably they will go flying. And if you're doing any Fender guitar style upgrades, it's good to have some more pickup mounting, like surgical tubing or something, because inevitably that stuff wears out as well. And if you change your pickups a lot, you will need to replace it, because it kind of compresses and loses its elasticity. There we go. And that pickup is ready to go. Now we'll try to get these screwed down, make sure they conform to the top. See what happens. One thing with screws, if no one ever taught you this trick, let me show you. One of the ways to get a screw seated back in a already threaded hole is to turn it counterclockwise before you thread it in, and it will find its mark. You'll feel it kind of step in. You might have seen that kind of click down. You feel it click into the threads. Then you can thread it down without worrying about cutting more threads or stripping out wherever it is mounted. So the butyrate ring is kind of conforming to the top, which is a good thing. And one thing I like to do is go diagonal to really get everything seated down nice and even. So let's do the same thing on the neck. Again, counterclockwise to get the screws started. It's going to save you a lot of headache in the long run. You don't have to go raid the pantry for some toothpicks to plug the hole so you can mount your pickups. But I'm digging this this white color. You guys like it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Say something, damn it!
Sorry.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm focusing. Like literally.
I'm focused.
I'm doing my job.
There we go. Let's get these knobs popped off and restring it. Okay, so we're going to use the cloth here to get these knobs off. Slide it under and then pull, and they should slide right up. I don't know where I learned this trick, but I like it when it works. There it goes. So the guys and I were looking at all the options and decided that instead of new reflectors that have the raised numbers, we like the gold bell knobs. So turn everything to 10, line up the number 10 with your thumb cutter, and you're ready to go. And they should just push right on. There we go. Hey! I like it. Yeah! Okay, so Chippy is done. We've changed the plastics, got rid of this peachy pink colored plastic, put on this more bone white ivory plastic, and it looks really nice. Going for these bell replica knobs look really cool instead of the reflectors. Really happy with how this thing looks aesthetically, and I don't know, that's a big part of the guitar experience, making something yours. The more excited you are to look at it, the more excited you'll be to play it. So links in the description for all this sort of stuff if you want to do this yourself. Subscribe, stay tuned for more videos like this, and we'll see you next time.